I just wanted to talk about the latest update, the rumored Tesla Model 3 Project Highland. What an incredible looking car. Honestly, I was extremely hesitant on the look. I'm just gonna be totally honest. I really liked the look of the old Model 3. However, a lot of people, for whatever reason, didn't like it. Even the Model Y, people were like, man, this thing kind of looks like a fish. I don't get it. That was Matt Watson with CarWow.
I think the car looks a little bit more aggressive than before, less fish-like.
I don't understand that portion of his feedback, but it's all good. People are allowed to have their opinion. But the more I saw this new design, the more it grew on me. And before even the taillights, I was just like, man, I don't really know how much I like these taillights. I don't know how much I like how this thing looks, but it's gotten a lot better and I really like it now. I think it's a nice, good refresh. It looks a little bit more aggressive, which I really enjoy. If you notice anything about BMWs, most of them do look a little bit aggressive. And so I really like this new look, but man, tell you what is the best thing about this new car: the soundproofing improvements. Honestly, our Tesla Model Y, it does a pretty great job being soundproofed. However, we still do get some road noise. I imagine you've heard this in some of my videos. You hear the road rumbling and things like that in the background, and this is even with acoustic foam in the actual tires. This is not to say that Teslas have worse road noise than other vehicles. Honestly, if we really listen to the road noise in my BMW video, you probably got more road noise, but a lot of that has to do with the suspension upgrades and the performance, bushings, and things like that. But regardless, the new updates on the Tesla Model 3 Highland, the newest version, really give a lot better noise canceling. So they actually have the laminated glass that they did in the Model 3s and the Model Ys in the front windows. Not only is it now on the back windows, it's also on the back glass. That's a huge improvement, and that's going to reduce road noise like crazy. In addition to that, they also made an adjustment on the hood, where right at the end of the hood, where it finishes off and meets the windshield, it just flicks up a little bit. And that little adjustment, not only is it an aerodynamic improvement, it's also an improvement for the entire noise, with wind noise and all those things. So it's a pretty great update. If you are in the market and you didn't purchase one yet, this is a great move for you. And I've said this before in a video, but when you think about these vehicles, you need to think about them from a perspective of maintenance, of it being headache free. I mean, for a daily use, nothing has beat this car. I've had a lot of different cars, I've driven a lot of different cars, but in a daily sense, man, I don't worry about anything in this vehicle. I get in this car and I go. I'm not thinking about warming up the oil, getting the coolant up to temperature, and anything like that. I just get in and I go. And if I could be totally honest, that's the kind of, maintenance-free lifestyle and driving that you want from a daily driver. You're not wanting to wait for everything to warm up and get up to temperature. You're not wanting to wait for the car to be ready to be driven and all this stuff. I want to be able to get in my car and just go. And that is exactly what the Model Y, Model 3, Model S, Model X provides. A Tesla provides this hassle-free, worry-free life. And so when you're considering this Model 3, this new Highland, I really think that there is a lot of benefits and perks that come with this car that you should really consider when looking for a new vehicle. If you live in different states, there's actually a lot of different incentives that you can take advantage of from one of these vehicles. A lot of great incentives, to be honest. For us, when we got our Model Y, not only did we qualify for the federal tax credit of $7,500 and have that tax liability available to us. But in addition to that, we also qualify for a California specific CVRP, California fund, that gave us an additional $7,500. So together we were looking at $15,000 off, which is a game changer. If you are interested in one, I just want to say what's really cool is that the price is completely unchanged, but I will preface it with saying that is as of now. You might be watching this video in the future, and you know what Tesla does great is supply and demand. There is a chance that the prices will go up on your vehicle. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, what that might mean is that it might go from affordable to no longer affordable for you. So I'm not saying this to put fear in your heart, to make you want to make a bad financial decision quickly or anything like that. Why I'm communicating this to you is because realistically, at the end of Tesla's financial quarters, they always do a big push to sell more vehicles. And so for us, what we really did was we looked at the vehicle. We wanted a Model Y, and what we realized is that at the end of these financial quarters, they usually discount their vehicles even more. And so when these discounts come through, what I really want to tell you is that you could get an additional $3, $4, $5, sometimes $1,000 off of a vehicle that's in inventory, that's brand new, that's in your spec, that's in your color, that's in your desire, whatever. And it could be available for you for an even bigger discount. So if you have local incentives, I encourage you, look into them. Don't just assume that you don't qualify. Look into them, see if you do, because you may be looking at possibly a $20,000 discount with local and federal incentives and Tesla's final sale incentives as well. And so with this latest update, just to continue talking about it, there's even more features that it has that it didn't have before, such as cooled front seats. Oh my gosh, especially if you're living in a hot climate, having cooled front seats, that is such a game changer. AC seats are amazing. And if you've never experienced it before, I highly recommend you go test drive Tesla Model S or X or even the new Tesla Model 3 and experience it for yourself, because that is such a phenomenal feature. I mean, you'll love it. The next thing is the rear screen. There's a screen now that what used to only be in Model S's and X, a very premium feature, but now will also be in the Model 3, and I imagine very soon, whenever they release the updated Model Y, it'll be in the Model Y as well. That is such a cool feature that if you have kids or even friends that are in the back, they could put on a YouTube video, they can put a game on. I mean, really, the options are limitless in that kind of sense, all just right there in the back seat. And so I really think that it is a not just little refresh, even though it is a smaller refresh in the grand scheme of things, but it's also extremely full of features. You know, there's other features a part of this update that maybe if you really want to nerd out on these things that are there, such as a higher refresh screen that just works smoother, works better. It's a great upgrade as well that you'll feel. There's also a change where the microphones are placed for audio calls. I can't tell you how often when I'm speaking to my wife on the hands-free that she has issues hearing me, or anybody else, honestly, that I'm talking to that's having issues hearing me when I'm trying to talk to them, when I'm on the call with them. But now they have two microphones, one that's directly above the driver and one that's directly above the passenger, which is also super great. Not only is that part of the nerdy details, but there's also some nerdy details when it comes to the materials that are used in the cabin. They specifically chose different materials in the cabin to make the car more quiet. That is so cool. What an amazing idea. What an amazing feature. I mean, it feels kind of like no matter what you do, this is a pretty win-win-win-win scenario. Now, you might be in the camp of somebody who purchased a Model 3, maybe even in December. You're like, man, all these incentives, Tesla's discounting Model 3s by 4 or 5 grand. You're like capitalizing on it. And now maybe you're in the position where you're like, man, I just got the old one. What's the value of my vehicle gonna be like? How is this longevity gonna be? How am I gonna deal with this issue with the vehicle's update? Because all of us want to have the best return on any liability or investment. And so for some of you, you may be asking yourself that question of like, man, what is this gonna be like for me in my car? Have I just made a massive mistake, a wrong decision? What's the status of this? And I'm gonna tell you right now that something that is on the new cars that some people might hate is the lack of stalks. And man, I don't wanna, keep just nailing this point constantly because I know other people have hit it, but having an actual blinker stock or the actual driving selection stock has been a pretty big feature. Not only is that part of the stock system, but also is the windshield wiper button and usage. And so to consider that now on the new cars, they won't have any of that it's just buttons on a steering wheel, you might be asking yourself if you even would like to deal with that. Honestly, I'm glad that they at least brought it back where there's a horn when you press in the center, because on the Model S and the Model X, they didn't even have a horn when you would press on the steering wheel with the actual buttons. But on these latest update, it's a lot better, and these buttons work a lot better. It's just a much better upgrade to consider. But if you purchased that vehicle and you're now wondering about your investment, wondering whether or not you made the right decision, I want you just to take a deep breath. Honestly, take a deep breath and relax. Only because the vehicle that you purchased is tried, true, and tested. It is something that has gone through tons of issues, warranties, and adjustments and improvements. Not to say that the new Model 3 is going to have issues, but realistically, it's a newer product. I know that they released it earlier in Asia and in Europe, and so they've done some testing and made some improvements, but there's still a lot to figure out. And so if you hop in on this newest update from Tesla and this newest model, yes, it's packed full of features, but it could also be packed full of issues that we just don't know about yet, that they may upgrade and change. The point is that don't be regretful and wondering and sitting there asking yourself if you made a mistake. Embrace the fact that you purchased a vehicle that is tested, that is good, that is enjoyable and reliable. And when that new updates come, you'll understand, man, maybe now it'll be time to upgrade. But I wouldn't go so extreme that you would look to sell your current car just to get the newest Model 3. And so I just wanted to preface it with that and really encourage you in that. So thank you so much for joining in on this video. I'm pumped on this new update. I think it's great. I personally still wouldn't get the Model 3, unfortunately, just because for me, it's a little less practical as a vehicle. I think it's a shame that they didn't make the rear trunk into a hatch. I think that that's such a great improvement. That it increases the usability of the vehicle, and they still haven't made that update. Probably will at some point when they upgrade the car. But that's a game changer for me, that if they did that, I would be more likely to consider that as a vehicle and as a daily driver. Otherwise, the Model Y, it also has much better visibility for me, who is taller. I'm 6'1", and in the Model 3, I find myself looking at the headliner a lot more than I thought that I would be. I don't know if it's just because I have a longer torso or what, but that's been a big thing for me, at least, that I've noticed that I've really valued immensely, is the increase in visibility. Now, the trade-off is that back glass, you cannot see much out of that back glass. And if you have a hard time with seeing blind spots, I highly recommend that you utilize the screen for you. But I'm a pretty aware driver, keeping tabs on where cars are at, where cars have been. And so all that to say is that it's a great car, and I'm very excited to test drive one, get some hands-on experience, and really the range even that was increased by this aerodynamic efficiency increase is pretty great too. So a lot of great improvements to consider. It's a great vehicle. I highly recommend you consider it. If you are considering purchasing one, please do use my referral code down below. Every time you do that, it gets me closer to getting the full self-driving, to getting the acceleration boost, and all these different things, which I would be extremely excited to make more video content on to show all of you about. So thank you for tuning in. I'm excited to continue making content for all of you guys. Be blessed. Have an amazing day. See you guys.